Hey everybody, Steve Biederman. I'm here today to talk to you about something I'm really excited about, failure. Obviously, the word failure brings out a lot of bad vibes, and I can't tell you that may excite you, but it excites me to be able to talk about it because we're breaking down the myth in these sessions. And there's so much I see out there today in Happy Talk about how bad things make you better. And I just think that's not the case. Have I been successful? Yeah. And did I have a lot of failures and bad things happen on my way to success? Yeah. But did those bad things teach me how to not have bad things tomorrow? No. Sure, I learned from experience, but I've learned as much from good things in my experience as bad things. And a good story to kind of set the stage here today. And I really hope you listen to this session because I think it's really important. The National Hockey League started a new team in Las Vegas a few years ago. And it was a new team, an expansion team. And expansion teams in all sports notoriously take years to develop into a winning culture, per se. And many times you'll hear them talk about they had to work up and learn a winning culture. Well, Las Vegas went to the Stanley Cup, the World Championship Finals, their first year in play. So they succeeded without failing. They met their goals without having to overcome losing seasons. And it's important to understand that they're no less for that than somebody who has experienced a lot of heartache and failure on the way to success. I think the myth is that failure is the ultimate teacher. Failure is not the ultimate teacher. Now look, a lot of you are entrepreneurs. A lot of you are people that are trying to become better in what you do and want to build a business, want to get personal wealth, and want to be hyper respected by the world that you're influencing in. And thinking that failure is a positive, I think entirely is the wrong approach. Failure teaches one thing for sure. It teaches you failing. It teaches you how it feels bad. It teaches you maybe there's a lesson in knowing that time can heal wounds and that there's the yin and the yang of everything, and that at times there's the opposite will happen. But I have had successions of failures that have happened through my life over and over and over in spite of having the experience. Here is an example. Years ago, building a business, and if you've listened to my other podcasts, you'll know this is somewhat a consistent story. I owed the IRS $420,000 of payroll taxes. And that means that I withheld moving the taxes that I was responsible for, that I had collected from employees, to the IRS. Instead, I used that to run the business. And one day, the IRS came into my office, and I was told they were going to put a red lock on my business and close it. Now, in that session, thought on my feet and worked a way to pay off the IRS. I worked out a way to keep my business open, and I worked out a way to not use those funds in that manner in the future by staying current. But there wasn't anything that I learned that I couldn't have already known. It was just me finessing a situation. Now, I learned how to pay off debt when I was stupid and did things wrong. And I learned how to stay in business while doing that. And that business ended up becoming a global leader in what it was doing. And what's interesting is when I became positive cash, people came to my office that wouldn't talk to me. Banks that wanted to loan me money and wouldn't talk to me when I was in this financial trouble, thought of me as a dirtball, And they wanted to lend me money. They wanted to give me things. They thought I was hot stuff. I was now one of the 5 fastest growing companies in the state of Colorado where I existed. And wow, was I great. And one banker who told me once he thought I was a criminal for the fact that I owed money in various ways, didn't recognize me. And he came in and he said to me how great I was and what deal he wanted to offer me. And I said, do you know me? And he said, well, I mean, I know all about you. I've read about you. I know the stories about you. I said, but do you know me? Do you recognize me? And he said, well, no, I don't. I said, well, let me tell you, there was a time when you shut me down, my bank account with you, and told me that you thought I was kiting checks and that you wanted to call the authorities on me and that you would never open an account with me again. Now, I'm the same person today that I was then. Do you still want to loan me money? Do you still want to give me this, I think it was $14 million that we were seeking? He said, well, yeah, that's a separate thing that exists in a different time frame, and it's just what you had to do to get here. And I said, well, it isn't what I had to do to get here. I wish I had never done that to get here. And by the way, you were right. I was kiting those checks so that I could make my payroll. I never bounced the check, but I did play the odds against the rules. By the way, I do have to admit I did owe the IRS that almost $500,000. I did pay it off, and I did stay in business long enough to become a hero to my industry as one of the fastest growing companies in the world in my type of business. So who am I, and what did I learn from it? Where is the value of those failures? Do you think me cutting those checks is something that will help me in the future, other than to know it's not the right thing to do because it's wrong? You know, I'm a big believer that life happens, and in life, we're always going to have bad situations. We're going to have bad days, and we're going to make poor choices. But I also believe this, that we make the same poor choices over and over and over, usually when we're feeling high and confident and impervious to trouble, and also, on the other hand, when we are as down and depressed as we can be. Let's talk about real life. How many divorces happen? A lot, right? You know, I don't know the number. It's over half. How many of those people get remarried again and have another divorce for the same damn reason? Did they learn their lesson? I doubt it, because they were just existing and reacting day in and day out to what's in front of you. Failure is not the ultimate teacher. Yeah, it's how you respond to failure, how you can work through the issues that you face, but I'd rather be the Las Vegas National Hockey League team that didn't have to work through my failures to figure out how to be successful. So quit telling people to feel okay about themselves when they are telling you they fail. You don't have to solve their problems. Just say, hey, that's a terrible thing. I'm sorry that happened to you. Hopefully it won't happen to you in the future. I can sit here and regale you with so many things that I have made mistakes in, things that I've hit walls in, and ways I've gotten around those walls. But I don't believe me learning how to get around those walls, those failures, are the reason I became successful. The reason I became successful was because I created enough valuable real estate around me, some space around me where I wasn't constantly being disrupted by those failures, so that I could begin to implement a reasonable plan, manage to the reasonableness of that plan, make reasonable decisions when I wasn't meeting that plan, and getting to the next step. And when I examine those, my successes can only be said to have been built on failures because I did a hell of a lot of it, but not because they taught me how to be successful. Again, stop reframing failure as anything more than the problem that exists. Look, we learn from things we do wrong, but we also have to understand that some of those are just decisions we need to make. So let's examine them. There are decisions in business that we make that are fairly common things. Here's an example. I believe that most businesses struggle with the idea of learning how to say yes. Most businesses get their comfort in saying no. Because if today is working, why do I need to make a change that might fundamentally upset what I'm doing? It's easier to prolong the steadiness of today by saying no to new initiatives, no to ideas, saying no to troubling customers that might come on. So the real thing about failing is learning that it's okay to say yes. And that if a failure happens because of yes, then don't continue to do that thing. Don't continue to fail that way. But don't stop learning how to say yes, because success is based upon how comfortable you get with saying yes. It's not based on how comfortable you get with solving failing decisions. So how do you avoid the trap of glorifying your failure? Because it's intoxicating when you have failed miserably and you go tell people around you and they all feel bad for you. And they pat you on the back and they buy you a meal and they hug you and they say it's not always that way. And you begin to hear the music playing and you're the star of that movie and you're the hero that has failed, but you still remain the romantic character. Unfortunately, failure isn't like that. Failure is really just something that teaches you more about failing than it does about winning. In the future, we're going to be talking about other myths, and some of these myths are going to upset you that I think this way. But my thoughts come from decades and decades of having lived experiences of building business, helping others build business, counseling, consulting with businesses, building my own businesses, investing in businesses, buying businesses, and building passionate environments and ones that were not so passionate. And I'll tell you this, not failing doesn't lead to anything but success. And failing always leads to more failure in the moment. The next episode we're going to talk about is why your leadership bubble will ruin your company. There are bubbles in leadership, and it's easy to build those bubbles. And we think that we're special somehow as leaders. So that is going to bring to you the idea that that's a good idea, because people tell you you should feel good about you. But the truth is, they'll ruin your company, minimally lead you to mediocrity. Anyway, it's not about failing fast. It's about learning deeply and acting wisely. So with that, talk to you again another time. You take care. Bye-bye.